Let me tell you a tale of heroes unsung who will never fail. On this road of life, they stand so proud. Every day Saturday, let's shout it loud.
Oh, you guys, what's going on? How you guys doing? Welcome to Every Day Saturday USMC Veteran Podcast. Of course, it wouldn't be a veteran host show without a big crayon, huh? Found this little crayon speaker. What a cool little thing. It's actually a speaker. Pretty cool. Hooks up to your phone or whatnot. Haven't had a chance to listen to it because I'm just sewing on. I'm just trying not to gnaw on it too much. They're lucky it's not edible. This would be a nice little dessert. But hey, welcome, guys. I want to say here we go. We're already second recording in as we decided to bring back Every Day's a Saturday. And I wanted to say thank you guys for some of you guys have reached out and let me know that you are happy that Every Day's a Saturday USMC Veteran Podcast has decided to come back. So I am ecstatic that there's people out there that are just as happy as I am to bring us back from the roots where we began. And if you guys haven't had the chance, if you want to go check out Coffee Talk with Bryan and Marie, go check that show out. That show right there is about healing out loud from PTSD to advocacy. We like to focus a lot on how hard was that transition for our veterans or first responders. And we also do talk to a lot of people that are maybe family members of people that have served and kind of what they've experienced or things like that, or anybody that maybe be an advocate for mental health. That way we can get the right resources and right help. And we definitely saw a need to kind of switch up the shows because it was definitely hurting our algorithm. Every Day's a Saturday USMC Veteran isn't solely really about mental health. I will say that we do cover it, though. It is in there, right? But it's not our main focus, and that's why I felt like we do need the Coffee Talk segment. And we'll talk a little bit more about why the Coffee Talk segment even began. What this show right here is going to be, we're going to go back and we're going to flash back. We're going to talk about why I started podcasting. We're going to listen to one of the very first recordings I heard, how I came up with a name. We'll go through the different seasons and why I chose things the way I did. So whether you're a new listener or an old listener, you might love this, this particular episode because if you're someone that's been with the show for a while, you'll get a little bit of some history and maybe you'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh my gosh. And maybe some of you are new and you never got to hear any of it. There is a lot to listen to right now. I want to say there's 137 interviews and my gosh, probably well over 300 different types of episodes that you can go back and listen to. So there is a lot to regurgitate. If you ever want to and you have some time, go back and listen to some of the older ones. Now, I will say that I have come a long ways. The audio's a lot better nowadays. A lot more crisper. I've definitely why I started this show. And when I decided I really wanted to take off with it, I really wanted to hone in and make it one of the better quality shows. I don't spend a lot of time editing because my gosh, if you wanted to edit, you can spend forever. So you guys do get a lot more of the authentic things. If I trip over my words, sometimes you're going to catch that. So you're not going to catch, and there I go, slapping my mic and on cue. It is me self-productions, guys. So you got to bear with me. And I've really never brought anybody else on to kind of help with, the back portion of the show. I've always done it on my own. Why did I start podcasting to begin with? 2023, back then I had been already, out of work since 2018. I really didn't have a lot going on, and I felt like a lot of things were starting to happen, right? I really started to feel very overweight, and I really uncomfortable in my own skin and in my own clothes and everything, So I was like, gosh, I don't know. I just feel like I was kind of down on myself, didn't really have a lot going on, didn't know what I really wanted to do. Heard about podcasts, uh, listened to some like the Sean Ryan podcast and Joe Rogan, things like that. I've heard a lot of them, a couple other smaller ones. Um, but other than that, I always grew up kind of listening to talk radio and had an interest in talk radio. Uh, so one day I was literally sitting in a recliner and I was thinking, I'm going to start a podcast. And then I think to myself, well, hello, Numney. What the heck are you going to do a podcast on? I said, well, you know what? This is the conversation I'm having with myself, right? It's like, hey, man, you've lived a pretty colorful life as a child. You've been through a lot. You decided to join the military during a peacetime. The World Trade Centers happened while you were in. You ended deploying and while you served in the Marine Corps. When you got out, you tried to take on the world, got a divorce, had 2 kids, bought a house, lost your father. There's just so much that has happened. Found my wife who had, 3 kids already, had a son with her. I mean, my story is, compared to others, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have far greater stories. But for me, this was an opportunity for me to kind of talk about things in my life that maybe my kids never got to hear, or even maybe their kids' kids. Maybe no one will ever care or have an interest in this. But my thought is that the bare minimum, maybe my kids can listen to this. Maybe my kids can go back and look on this and hear some things and get a more of a better understanding of who I was. Because I'll tell you, with my first 2 kids, I wasn't the best dad. I really wasn't. I would never toot my horn and say I was a great dad. I did the best that I could. But when I got divorced from their mom, it just really hit me hard. And I really spiraled out. I really made bad decisions, and they got to see a lot of that, right? And it was just unfortunate. And but a lot of me being able to go through and talk and tell my stories it started becoming a healing journey for me. And it really started making me think and bring back thoughts that I've never thought about. Because a lot of times, right, when we're going through life, we don't think about things that are in the rearview mirror. But sometimes the things in the rearview mirror could have damaged your car or whatever. I'm probably destroying those words, but I think it's important though, right? Through when I started telling my story, I was like, man, this is a lot more healing than I ever expected it to be. And I thought, how could I maybe start bringing on others to tell their stories? Well, hey, you've got a great idea. Why don't we start with my friends and family right off rip? Anybody that served or whatever, let me start right there. I thought for sure that was a slam dunk. Man, I thought my friends were a slam dunk. No, they were the hardest ones to get. So I started asking around, on Facebook, and I think even through Messenger, just sending a lot of messages to people. And I got some response back, not as many as I was hoping for sure, from people that I knew. But lo and behold, I lost my dad in 2020. And when I lost my dad, there were several of his friends that had reached out to me through Facebook Messenger and started talking to me. One in particular, I was super happy. He had served in the Navy, and I was like, dude, I would love to have you on, bro. Like, I mean, so we ended up meeting at a place called Crazy Autos. His name's Chris, and got to talking, man. I was like, he told me he served in the Navy, and I was like, oh, that's great. We got to talk a lot about my dad, and there it was. I had my first interview set up with Chris, and I was so happy, and when I first started, I was very cookie cutter type. I thought, oh, and I did not know how to do podcasting at this point in time. I learned through, listening to a couple, and then just the YouTube of how to start a podcast, videos, things like that. So I had like a list of the questions that I would go through, and I was like, cool, I got a couple interviews in, and I found another guy who was kind of on his journey, and he was doing a walk from North Carolina to Texas, and I was blown away. He was a Navy veteran. I was like, bro, that's wild, dude. You're gonna do that. That's a huge hump, and so I thought it was kind of a cool thing that me and him were both kind of starting our journeys. His was definitely different than mine, but I'm here starting a podcast, and I thought, hey, this would be kind of cool for our two journeys to kind of coexist, and I can kind of share your story, and this is a good way for me to have a couple episodes lined up, so I can get myself rolling and maybe start having others want to join in as they're seeing the interview. So what a great opportunity it was to follow Jason and his story. But let's drill back real quick. Actually, never mind. I'm not gonna. I wanted to get out of order real quick, and that's of course me. That's why I made a list for myself so I don't get out of order. But we'll kind of get back to the seasons and stuff like that. But let's talk a little bit more of how the name Every Day's a Saturday came up. When I decided, I was really trying to come up with names, and I had no clue what to go through and how I was going to name it, because I really wasn't 100% sure where the podcast was going to go in general. I knew that I was going to tell my story. I knew I didn't really, and when I first started, I had no clue I was going to end up bringing on guests, and it was going to kind of start evolving as it did. So I had already came up with this term, and I had already been saying to people, every day's a Saturday for me, because once I went 100% unemployable, which was back in 2018, it was very devastating for me. I went from making a 6-figure income to absolutely a fraction of that. So I had to try to find the positive in things instead of allow myself to slip back into like a major depression. So I came up with the term every day is a Saturday. And I said, like, hey, shit, man, you know what? Fuck it. Every day is a Saturday. I don't have to, I don't have to report to work anymore. And I used to just say this term all the time to my wife. And when people would ask what the day is, I would always be like, it's Saturday. They're like, no, it's not. It's Tuesday. And I'm like, well, it's Saturday to me, So, although it's not like every day was truly a Saturday. I still had to take kids to school. I mean, I had to function as a normal, but I didn't have a job, so to speak. So when I came up with the podcast and I was like kind of talking to the wife about names, she's the one that threw it out there. She's the one, you should name it Every Day's a Saturday. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. I said, dang, but all that I know you should make it kind of a short name. And so I was like, every day's a Saturday is kind of long, but I said, I liked that catching. I like that phrase. And I said, it would be very suiting to kind of have a podcast that kind of reflects on, your experiences and stuff like that. And a lot of us are disabled, and we have stories to tell, and life didn't stop for us just because, we were disabled or whatever it may be. So when I went and Googled Every Day is a Saturday, there was something else in there, and I'm like, damn it. But it wasn't anything to do with veterans or anything. It was about college football. So I was like, sucks, man. What? I don't really want to change the name. So I was like, I put a dash and I put USMC Veteran. I said, all right. I'll just make it as though it's Every Day's a Saturday by a USMC veteran host, but I didn't put the host part. And then I'm like, gosh dang, if I did not make this name any longer and more confusing, so that's what I did. I made it more longer and more confusing. So that's how it became Every Day's a Saturday USMC Veteran Podcast. And when I decided to start the podcast, it happened to be January 9th of 2023. So that's when I started. That's when season 1 kicked off. Very first episode I recorded. Let's go ahead and play that real quick. Here we go. You guys get to hear let me see. Oh, shoot. I got to restart it. I don't. That's for. Well, hello there. Welcome. And you guys are listening to Every Day's a Saturday. I'm your host, Bryan Roof. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is my first ever podcast, first episode, first go around at this. So please bear with me. I'm going to go ahead and start this off by trying to give you guys a little bit of introduction to myself. I'm not going to get deep into everything because all right. That was the very first episode. So basically, with episodes 1 and 2, let me fix myself here. Basically, with episodes 1 and 2, it was kind of an intro, right? I did one day where I talked about what I would be kind of talking about the first half, and then the next recording I did another one about kind of more of what I was going to be doing, and I broke them up, I think around 20 or 30 minutes. I was trying to be really quick with them, but yeah, I had these little things at the beginning where a little music started it off, but January 9th, 2023, that was when we kicked it all off. And when we decided to go, I had no clue, like I said, when to start, when to stop. But somewhere down the way, I decided I was going to stop around, I wanted to stop around Veterans Day. And it's right around the Marine Corps birthday, all that stuff. So I was like, you know what? Let's do that. Let's stop on Veterans Day. So the show goes from, January 9th all the way out till November 11th. And that's when you'll hear the last episode. And that's really how I've done it from season 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And that's how season 5 will start as well. It will start on January 9th. And that's just how I want to kind of keep it. It's the way it's been going. And I like ending it on, Veterans Day. Gives me a little bit of time to kind of reprieve myself, give myself time to concentrate more on the holidays. In November, December, you get into Thanksgiving and Christmas, kids were getting off, things like that. So I thought there was a lot of benefits from kind of having it that way, and I really liked it that way, and that's kind of why we stuck that way. But it's wild to think that, since the show started, we are in over 100 countries or regions. That is outstanding. That is really cool to see that this podcast is worldwide, legit. And I think there's about 89% in the US. So good 11% are in other countries. So it's quite wild. And if you are someone from a different country other than the United States, thank you so much for listening in. And I hope you can learn from us and some of the things that we, as U.S. citizens are challenged with as veterans. And maybe in your own country, you guys go through your own set of things and stuff. And it's just kind of different. It's kind of nice to get different perspective from others and what they're going through and all that stuff. So some of the cool things that I've gotten to do throughout my time is I've gotten to interview people I've served with. I really enjoyed that. Or even I got to I had 2 interviews with people I actually served under and I reported to at some point in time as they were, one was a sergeant at one point in time and the other was a staff sergeant. Actually, and I take that back, and they both actually got promoted during the time. So one of them became a staff sergeant, the other one became a gunnery sergeant. But I did serve under both of those guys, so it was really cool to have them on, and some other of my guys that I got to spend day in, day out with. I had them on the show as well, so it was really cool. I really love that I've gotten to reconnect with a lot of people through my show. And one of my best listeners or favorite, person that tunes into the most of my shows is my cousin, Jeremy. And Jeremy Roof, man, I appreciate you, cuz I really do appreciate you for listening to my shows. He never served his country, but he's quite a patriot himself, and loves his country, and very awesome that he supports a lot of different people that I have connected with on here, some of the authors and things like that. I think he's gotten a book from one of my guests before, so it's quite awesome, the connections that the podcast has brought me as well. All right, so let's kind of go through the different seasons. So season 1 kicked off January 9th, 2023, and ran all the way till November 11th, 2023. We had 25 episodes about my life. So that's when I really opened up and gave you guys a lot of stories about my life. I told some really interesting stories that got me in some trouble with my wife. And she was listening to my podcast at the beginning and supporting it until she heard I think it was around episode 3-ish. One of the stories on there, she was not fond of it. And so she was done listening to the podcast after that. Nevertheless, we brought on Wacky Wednesdays. That was a nonprofit showcase where we brought on different nonprofits. I had a co-host. His name was Derek, a good buddy of mine. He served in the United States Marine Corps, into music. He also had his own podcast show at the time. But we did quite a few shows, 18 shows to be exact, and how Wacky Wednesday worked. And it was really cool. We did about 20 to 30 minutes where we donated the time to the nonprofits, and we allowed them to come on and talk all about their nonprofits and the benefits that it can for, veterans. So that way we were showcasing all the different nonprofits that are available for our veterans out there. A lot of times, this is where I got to learn about all the different things that are out there. I had no clue how many different nonprofits that are available for our veterans. Sometimes they're right in your backyard and in your local community, and you don't even know about them because the algorithm is a damn thing. And for whatever reason, a lot of these things get lost and we can't ever find them. You have to seek it out, right? It's not like right in front of your face. And a lot of times, veterans, they're not out there really seeking things out a lot of times. But we did like I said, about the 20-30 minutes donated to where they talked about their nonprofit, the benefits, any testimonials, things like that. And then after that, we kind of did like a little game for the next 20 to 30 minutes where it was like a what if scenario. Like, what if you had $1 million? What would you do? It was all kinds of different scenarios, just to have some fun. And everybody that showed up on the panel for Wacky Wednesday, they got to go through and talk about their experience. And Wacky Wednesday was kind of an open panel. We did invite others, and it was kind of a real fun thing to do. But, having co-hosts and trying to balance all the different shows, unfortunately, it never made it to a season 2. Season 1, we did finish off with 50 interviews. I thought that was really cool for my first time to do 50 interviews right off rip. And season 2, we kicked that off January 9th of 2024. This is when we introduced the true crime segment, military edition. And I did about 10 episodes of that. Now, that segment was about veterans who became serial killers or started committing major crimes either while they were serving or after they served. I didn't know there was so many, and there's a lot. And I think I covered around 10. Um, didn't bring it back because it really wasn't getting a lot of hits on it. And now I can reflect and look back and realize that doing these little segments that I did each season was kind of hurting every day as a Saturday. In the form of it kills the algorithm. And I hate to use the algorithm word, and I hate algorithm, but that's how it is in this industry. You cannot get around it. If you want your podcast or your music or anything, like, you got to dedicate that to that specifically. If you dance around all these different genres or different topics and things like that, it starts to kill your algorithm. Hence the reason why we took Coffee Talk and made it its own as well. But anyhow, so we decided to kind of kill off that segment. I decided season 3. Oh, sorry. Before we get into season 3, season 2 concluded 55 interviews. Got really sporty in season 2 because I got contacted through a agency called podcast.com, and they had a list of people who wanted to actually be on Every Day's a Saturday. And they gave me a list of like 33 different people. And I was really sporty at the time. And I was like, boom, I started hitting everybody up, and I was able to get so many different interviews. So I started spitting out not just one interview a week. I was spitting out 2 interviews a week through the summertime because I just had so much going on. And I was really taking on a lot of different interviews. All right, now we'll talk about season 3. And towards the end of this, we'll play some of the old clips and things like that, so you guys can kind of see some of the things that I was talking about. So season 3, once again, January 9th, 2025, we kicked it off. This is when I decided to bring on the segment called Coffee Talk, and it started off as Coffee Talk with Bryan. And really what Coffee Talk was, all my thought process behind Coffee Talk was, I really kind of wanted to start to bring forward a lot of the issues that were brought on here during season 1 and 2 through the different guests that I had. Having over 105 different guests, I started seeing a lot of different things when it became to mental health. And that was a very key word that we talked about: homelessness, recovery, all those type of things. And I was like, man, why not I do a show where we kind of start focusing on these issues and how we can maybe fix them instead of just keep constantly talking about the issues at hand. Let's get more of like, how can we fix it? Well, around about episode 10 or so, through this time, I had interviewed Marie on my show, and she is an Army veteran who was a combat medic, has an amazing story about recovery, addiction, sexual trauma, all kinds of stuff. And I thought, man, and she's a female. I thought, wow, she would really be a good person to kind of bring on to Coffee Talk and kind of talk about her addiction and advocacy and all the things that she's going through. So I brought her on as a guest, and then by the end of that interview or that show, I was like, you should just come on and be a host, and she was all for it. She was all ready to go. So that's what we did. We decided to make Coffee Talk. And at first it was with Bryan for a while. And then when we saw that people were reacting to the show and even reaching out and stuff like that, we were like, oh, let's figure out how we can make this more of a thing. So then that's when we started, we made it Coffee Talk with Bryan and Marie. And we finished out the season as normal. We did quite a few. We did 33 episodes in total for season 3. And by the end, we decided let's go ahead and bring it into season 4. Now, season 4, January 9th, 2025, started off normal. I was able to kind of talk about things. Life was at that time going good for me. I was making my move from my hometown that I've been there forever back down to San Diego area where I had been stationed to, and I just fell in love with. And and around December time frame, Marie started experiencing a lot of mental health issues, and she really started seeking out help. And she was trying to get herself into a veteran program in December. So once January starts, she gets herself into the program, and I start kind of. I think if you go back, you see I did do a video of kind of the introduction. I was kind of showing my new studio and all the stuff behind it. Then boom, things happened to me, and life got me, and the house that I was in got swept underneath us, displaced, started having to live in the Airbnb life. So I saw that I didn't really have a way of recording or having a studio to give quality content, and my mind just wasn't in the game. So I decided, and with Marie being gone, it just seemed like it made sense to kind of put the show on halt. So we did, and that's what we did, and there was no end day in sight. We did know that Marie's program was a 30-day program, so I did know that she was going to be gone for the whole month of January. So I had through the month of January, which was, it all kind of worked out. But she ended up getting out of her program, and she was kind of ready to record, and I was still not in a place to record yet. And then finally, things worked out to me where I was able to get myself into a place and get myself back on my feet, get my family on their feet, and get life back in the swing of things. I just thought at the time my bandwidth, and I'm not even telling you guys during these times, during season 3, I decided to take on being a producer for 2 other podcast shows, Sick Call with Doc and Hero Stock Nation podcast. And I had already started a whole bunch of other ones, and I'd never even talked about these other little side things that I did. I did Throwback Thursdays where I was talking about stuff. We did talk about Wacky Wednesdays. I did another one called the Devil Dog Experience with my buddy Tom. We did that for maybe like 5 episodes, 6 episodes. I don't know. Yeah. So there's just, I've done a lot of different podcasting things. So I don't know. I just felt at the time when I decided to come back that I needed to just concentrate on Coffee Talk and give Coffee Talk its the attention and try to get that show established. And also Marie really wanted to do this. She really, if it wasn't for Marie, Coffee Talk would have stopped at season 3. The season 3, and it probably would have stopped around episode 10. So when she came along, that's what kept that show going, right? And I really, when I have someone else co-piloting with me, I felt that I had an obligation to her as well. Like I wanted her to, she wanted to do podcasting, and I felt like, hey, dude, I've already been in this for a couple years. I can help her along the way. And she really kept me wanting to go. And she's brought on so many great ideas for the show. She's the reason why we have so many guests on our show as well. I got to give her the credit. She has really helped us with that. Got a calendar thing going for us to get people going. I mean, we are literally booked out on that show up into February timeframe. So it's really cool how that show has grown. And that's what we did. We just really put our time this season into coffee talk. Now that I've gotten myself, the dust has settled. I'm no longer doing, producing the other two podcast shows anymore. I've kind of honed in on, do I want to keep going with this? If I do, I got to start getting serious with it, putting a little more effort towards it, spending a little bit more time on it. And so that's what I'm doing. And I really like what we've done on this show. And I really like the listeners that came through and followed the show for a long time. And like I said, I do feel that I saw that there was some people maybe not listening to it as much, and that's totally fine. I get it that the show itself kind of evolved into something different. And that's why once again we decided to cut it into two different shows and have it the way that it is. Now, with season 4, we're gonna reconvene with Every Day's a Saturday. And so if you guys are listening right now, it's July 31st, and I'm releasing this today as I'm recording it. But September 2nd, 2026 is the new drop of the new episodes. And so it's going to be interview 138, and you're not going to want to miss it. It is with a Navy veteran officer, and he's just an amazing dude and doing amazing things for our veterans, and has come a long way in his life. His story is quite unique, and you can just sense as you're listening to his story how guided he was through all of the things that he's done. And a lot of the decisions weren't really his, they were kind of just made for him. And just a really great way to kick off. This is basically our kickoff to season 4 for Every Day's a Saturday. And you guys are going to get, interviews all the way up until November once again. But we will reconvene season 5. Season 5, I owe it to you guys, and I owe it to myself, because when I started this journey, I told myself I would do this for 5 years. So 2027 is going to be the 5th year. All the way through, that will wrap up a total of 5 years of doing this. Now, where I'm going to decide whether I move on with the show or decide to stop, because like I said, I made that 5-year commitment. I want to hold true to that 5-year commitment, and I don't really owe it to nobody but myself, because I did make that commitment to myself. I'm just speaking out loud, and now I'm saying I owe it to everybody else too. So I'm giving myself something to hold myself accountable for, and you guys get to hold me accountable as well. But we'll see how season 5 goes. I do set goals for myself by how many listeners are gaining. I want to see that the show is still growing. I want to see that there's people still listening to it. I do like to talk, but I really don't necessarily want to hear myself talk all the time and watch myself or listening to myself. So if I don't really have listeners or people listening to it or seeming like they're interested in it, I'll kind of make that decision, and maybe I'll just go ahead and stop it and move on to different projects and different things that I really have a passion for. And I also, did some analysis towards the show and things like that, and it does seem as though if I keep going with the show, it should continuously make its way and grow itself organically. That's something that I've always prided myself with the show, is I've allowed it to grow at an organic pace. So organically, it takes time. It takes a lot of time. And a lot of it is based on how much grind is in you, because you are yourself. You are that's why I call it the me self production, is because you do it all. You gotta do the videos, you gotta edit it, you gotta cut reels, send them to all the different social media platforms. You got to come up with descriptions, titles, make sure that you have all the different platforms and all the RSS distributions and things that are all set up, so that way the shows end up on all the different platforms. one thing when you kind of get into this whole thing, and you don't realize how much there is behind the scenes. And that's why you will see a lot of podcasts don't make it out of their first year. And a lot of them don't even make it to 10 episodes. I like to kind of fill it out, do about 10 episodes and see where I go with them. When I started this podcast, man, I was shocked how many people were listening to it right away. And I was, that's kind of like it always has fueled me to keep going, is seeing that there are people listening to it. It's not for me. I want everybody to understand I'm not looking to be a star. I'm not looking to get rich off of this. This is literally a healing vessel for myself. It's also a vessel for other veterans or first responders, family members, or Gold Star family members, to share their stories, to share their experiences, the things that they go through, the suck that they've had to go through in their life, the tribulations, the successes of where they got themselves to after all the things they put themselves through or had to go through. So, I want to keep this going, and I want it to get out to the masses. I want this show to be something that even the VA looks for. Like, they want to see stories of real life veterans who live day to day. I really have taken a pride in this show, in kind of showing the good, the bad, and the ugly, because I think it's so important for us to show it all, right? Because you can't learn from it if you're not exposing it all, if you're not showing it all. That's why I really think there's some amazing podcasters out there that are doing the hard jobs and exposing the bad, and it's not a favorable thing for a lot of people. And unfortunately, algorithm will not recognize things like that. Algorithm feeds off negativity. So a lot of our shows that are showing positivity, or we're trying to get help out there, these things get lost in the algorithm. And that's why it's important for, if you guys are listening to the show, please share it. Share it on your little social medias, share it wherever you can with your friends and family. Maybe no one listens to it. Maybe it hits one person and that person's like, wow, thank you for sending that to me. I really learned a lot. I mean, from every single different interview I've done, I've learned something new from each and every guest I've had on. The different lives, the different struggles, some of them very relatable to me, some that I couldn't even fathom myself. But there's a lot of magic that comes from just being able to talk. It's wild how much we tend to bold up, keep it to ourselves. Even when it comes to complimenting people, we think it in our head. We're like, wow, that's really cool. That person's awesome. Or they're doing a great job. That person's, handsome. That person's pretty. We keep those positive things in our head for some reason, because I guess we're afraid to say it, or I don't know, the reception. It's just a way that I think a lot of us are wired. So bringing guests on to the show and allowing them the vessel to speak, it does a lot of magic for them too. And a lot of times I'll get off a show and we go to the back room and we'll kind of chat it up, and they'll say, wow, I had no idea that was going to do what it did for me. And I said, yeah, I didn't know it was going to do that for me either when I first started. That's why I continue to do this. It's because there is a little bit of some magic behind it. I know the world, we like to label things, and we like to start to say, I feel like when there's a manual to something, they're like, this is how it is. And I don't know that a manual fits for everybody. There should be A, B, C, D's and different types of manuals, because you may not fit under that manual that's written, and so some people may not learn by going to, or may not get as much out of going to a therapist as they would sitting down with a buddy, a fellow veteran, or someone who has been there, done that kind of situation. There's a lot that you get out of that, because sometimes I feel like you'll be talking to some of these people and they go and they see therapists and stuff like that. I feel like maybe sometimes the therapist doesn't ask the right questions. A lot of times when we're in there, they'll kind of just be like, talk about this. And we just kind of, it's like we talk about it, but that's what we talk about. In the veteran world, we probably do go a lot more on like a scroll nut, but they do try to make you stay within that topic. And with here, it's we start to ask questions that we know to ask because we've been there or we experienced that. We know that there was this or that going on at the time that a licensed person does not know. And and give you guys a disclaimer. I am not giving anybody medical treatment. I do not try to diagnose anybody, and I'm not telling you not to go see anybody or any of that such. This is me talking from my experience and my own belief in what works good for me. Some people, it does work good to go see someone and go talk to someone. That I do not say do not do that. I'm just saying that you can benefit a lot from talking to someone else who's experienced it. So don't take it as I'm saying, don't go see your psychiatrist, don't go see your therapist. No. That's not what I'm saying. But for me, this is what works great for me and has worked good for me. It's done a lot of good for me, and it's opened my eyes to different perspectives and different ways of believing. I will say that the way that I think from the time that I started back in 2023 up until now, July 31st, 2026, the way my mindset is completely different. Completely different. My outlook on things are completely different. And this whole podcasting world has opened my eyes up to doing different things. I started a show on divisive measures, talking about division in the country and all that stuff. Wow. Did that open up my eyes? So the podcasting world starts to make you talk about things that maybe you don't ever talk about, or, it brings a conversation that a lot of people don't do. Or maybe they have it, at a work, and maybe some people don't go to work, or they're in their garages or in their rooms or whatever, and they can watch it or listen to it here. Real life conversations, real things that are going down, real experiences. And damn, you'll be like, gosh, damn, that's relatable as hell. But I'm excited. I'm really excited for this. I love doing it. I hope that everybody's enjoying the shows. I am a person that I would love to hear from you guys. If you guys have listened to this show, let me know. Shoot me an email. Just say, hey, Bryan, dude, love you, man. Been listening to you for a while. Keep doing what you're doing. Every day's a Saturday, 365 at yahoo.com. I would love to hear, how everybody loves the show, doesn't love the show. What maybe something you would like to see me add on to the show. Maybe there's a question out there that you want me to start asking the guests. Something that I do want to bring on is funny stories. I want to start bringing a section where we kind of get to the end of their military point, and then we'll talk about some of their more funny experiences, funny boot camp story, funny story while they were serving, something that maybe really during their time sticks out more than ever. I think we can do that. That would be kind of fun to do. Any other ideas out there that you guys have, shoot me an email. Please don't be afraid. It's every day to Saturday, 365 at yahoo.com. And so talking about the future of the show, like I said, season 5, we're going to kick it off like normal, January 9th, 2027. That year will be possibly the final season. And like I have told you guys before, A lot of that's going to be depicting on whether the show is gaining its listeners, people are receiving it, liking it, if there's a need for it, things like that. If I can, and as long as I keep seeing what I'm seeing on my statistics on the stat side, which I try not to pay attention to, but when you're doing this, you do want to see that there's people out there listening. And there are, and that's the beauty of it all. There's a lot of people out there. I did, like I said, do a poll whether people were happy about the show coming back, and there are people happy about it. I got messages about it, so I'm happy there are people out there listening to it. Let's keep doing it, keep pushing it out there. Like, share the show with as many people as you guys can. It really will help us get out there in the algorithm. Before we head out, let's do a buddy check. I hope everybody out there, I hope 2026 is doing well for you. If it's anything like it was starting off for me and it's still going that way for you, God bless you. And I hope you get to the top of your mountain on whatever journey you may be on and whatever struggle you may be going through. We want to hear everybody's story. I would love for you guys to come on. Please, every day is a Saturday, 365 at yahoo.com. We also have a calendar. I don't know if you can plug it into every day's, just put in every day's a Saturday USMC Veteran. If not, if you email me and you tell me you want to be on the show, I will shoot you the calendar, put yourself on there, and we'll get you on the show. I think I got about 2 to 3 interviews lined up. One already had to reschedule. Hopefully he reschedules. Damn squid. I think I told you guys we had 2 Navy guys lined up. Well, one of them I've already completed. The other one, he submarined on me, so to speak. No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully he reschedules. I would love to have him on. But hope everybody out there, you have an amazing day, amazing week, amazing year, whatever it may be. If you want to join the Facebook group, please do. Every day is a Saturday. It's a community group, and you are more than welcome to share things that you got going on. Also, Linktree is a free way of it's completely free for Linktree. If you go to Linktree and you put in every day is a Saturday, should be able to get you there. Once you kind of save that place will be able to direct you to take you to whatever platform you want to listen to. We are on just about every major listening platform and YouTube. If you want to watch the show, it's best to go on Spotify. Spotify has an option where you can watch it, and as well as YouTube. It's going to be there as well. So if you want to watch it, if it's audio only, all the other major platforms. And if it's not on your major platform, let me know. Shoot me an email, and we'll be sure to get you on there. That way you can listen to us on your favorite platform. I did say I was going to share a couple little videos with you. So let's do that real quick. And if some of you are impatient, don't want to hang out, we'll see you guys on the next one. But before we do, we're going to check out a couple little videos. Right here, we're gonna show you guys the first recording when I was talking about with Jason. Here it goes. Let's see how horrible this sounds or good.
Yeah, brother. So we left on the 15th as planned. About 7:30 in the morning, we started walking from Sanford. We're approximately, this is the 11th day in. We've covered about 130 miles rucking. And in 10 days, I'm kind of taking a little bit of a break today. Kind of rolled my ankle a little bit yesterday. Not too bad, but.
So he originally I had started with him on audio, and he ended up being my first recording on YouTube. So that was kind of a cool thing to experience with him. Let's see here. Let me show you guys most popular show. Okay, let's show you guys the most popular shows over on YouTube channel. All right, so on the YouTube channel side, the most popular show to date, having 5.7K views, was with Stassar Nichols, and he was interview 56. why he is so popular is because he actually was on a show, a Marine Corps. It was like basically showing what it was like to be in Marine Corps boot camp. And I believe it's called Black Friday. And he was a senior drill instructor, and they went through from the beginning to the end with him and that platoon. And it became a really popular movie, and it really gave us a good insight of what boot camp is like. So he was really cool to have on. The second most popular one, sitting in at 1.7K views, is my interview with Staff Sergeant. This is Staff Sergeant. Gosh, I only know him mostly by his
Marines from the fleet
by
that'll
his
come in and give
freaking
their perspective.
Mad Hatter, because I met him on Gunny on TikTok, and I reached out to him. He's really popular on TikTok, and I was like, dude, I got to get him on my show. And lo and behold, he actually answered back and came on my show. So it was really cool to have him on. I think when I play this one, it's audio only.
What's the
so I still was doing audio, and I was trying to get them added on to this.
Take the new Marines around the base, and you show them like, hey, this is what a barracks room looks like.
Gosh, I'm all messing myself up. All right, we're gonna get the hell out of here before I mess myself up anymore. But anyhow, I had him on multiple times, talking about bringing him back on again. He's still active. He's still serving his country right now. When I interviewed him, he was a staff sergeant. Since then, he's been promoted to a gunnery sergeant and deployed just recently. So trying to get him back on the show to talk about how things were on his deployment, how the current situation's going on, with the war over in Iran, and what's going on with what he's got going on. But yeah, so we got a lot of cool things. I'm excited for season 5. I really look forward to having interaction with you guys out there. We'll find a way that we can get you guys more interacted. Also, if you would like to be a sponsor of the show, love to have some sponsors for the show. We can talk offline about the different packages or opportunities to become a sponsor of the show and what being a sponsor looks like for the show. But other than that, I hope you guys have an amazing day out there. Don't let the day kick your ass. Make sure you kick it. We'll see you all next one. All right.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.